Welcome back to week 12 of our organization challenge. This month is May and we are working on things that inspire us. So books, magazines, patterns, all of that wonderful stuff. This week we're going to talk about magazines. But before we get started, I'm Chris O'Neill from Sew the Distance. Thank you for joining me today. If you're new to my channel, I do this organization challenge for 25 weeks. So we're almost halfway there. I also have lessons from an old quilt and I have a vlog that I post, and occasionally I'll put up a tutorial or two. For those who are returning, welcome back. Thank you so much for supporting this endeavor, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate you all. So let's get started talking about magazines. Now, I'm gonna have a disclaimer out there. I love quilting magazines, and to be honest with you, I'm not getting rid of any. That may or may not be you. You may want to get rid of a whole bunch of magazines, but for me, I really love my magazines. So about 5 or 6 years ago, I did something I thought was really smart, and it turned out to be just a disaster. And it probably goes back to my personality. I should have known better than to do this, but I did do it anyway. And I made this giant binder here of quilt patterns that came from magazines. So I took all of my magazines and I ripped out all the patterns that I really thought I'd make someday, and I organized them, and I even put tabs of sections like applique and red work and piecing and all of that. And it's nice and organized in this giant binder. I even made a really pretty cover. You can see it here. And all of the remnants of the magazines I of course recycled and just got rid of. So I have all the pieces that I wanted in this binder. So there are a few things about this method that I just don't like, and I want to point them out to you before you go ahead and make the same mistake I did. That said, this might be the exact way you want to do it, and that's fine. For me, it just doesn't work. And one of the reasons is because I don't gravitate towards this. I don't go to my bookshelf and pull this out and look at it. I will, however, do that with magazines, and I'll grab a stack of them and maybe go sit on the porch or, just browse through them and look for inspiration. So the patterns I picked out maybe 5-10 years ago and put in this binder aren't exactly my taste anymore. I mean, not all of them. Some of them are still really cute, but some I just would never make because it's not something that I like anymore. Another thing that you want to consider is that your skill level changes. I'm sure there are patterns in those old magazines that I would now make that I wouldn't have made 5-10 years ago. And finally, it took a lot of time to put this thing together. For all the time I put into it, I could have probably been quilting. This may be the perfect way for you to organize your patterns and, have at it. It's kind of cool, to have them all in one place like this, but for me, it just didn't work. So why do I love magazines, and why am I not getting rid of any, even though this is an organization challenge, right? So first of all, they're light and portable. I can put a bunch in my car. I can take them, like I said before, out onto the porch. I can even take them to like the beach. I'm not real worried about them getting ruined like I might be a book, and I can just leaf through them. They're a lot of fun to look at. I really love looking at the older ones, and I find it entertaining because I see funny articles that don't pertain to anything now. For example, I recently came across an article on how to take pictures for a quilt that you're submitting to a quilt show and how to make sure the slides are good quality for that submission. It was great to read about how when you get your film developed and all of that. So, it was before the digital age, and it was just a hoot to read. I also love looking at the advertisements, and I mean, just some of them are so old-fashioned, and it's funny to read them and not see like websites and hashtags and all that stuff. You also see the old fabric lines, which are also a lot of fun to look at. Another really fun thing to do is to take one of your old magazines and look up some of the designers and see where they are now. There are people that we know now as famous quilters that started their career by submitting to magazines, and I think that's really cool too, to see some of the early work of some of these quilters that we love now. Also, just like I said about the binder, our skill level changes. So with the older magazines, I can pull this out and maybe see something that I would never have made years ago, but would absolutely tackle right now. And lastly, when I think about, if I would have gotten rid of some of my older magazines, like, Mark Lipinski's Quilter's Home. I love this magazine, and it's out of print. I also have another one, Quilty, that's no longer in print. And these are just classics, especially this one. If you ever see these out This was a great magazine, and it has a lot of really good articles. It doesn't have a lot of patterns, but it has a lot of really good articles, and I'll go back and reread them and see how they pertain to me now. Now, I know this wasn't a great advertisement for cleaning out your magazines, but I just have to be honest with you about them. This is definitely something I'm not willing to part with. Some of you out there might think, yeah, I don't care about the magazines. I'm going to get rid of them. I read them and then I recycle them, and that's fine. We're all so different, and we all tackle these things differently too. So let's talk about your tasks. So your tasks for this week are a little bit similar to what we've done the past couple weeks. The first thing is to gather up all your magazines, and if you're choosing to get rid of some, go through them and decide what you're getting rid of. If you are choosing to make a binder, you might want to go through each of the magazines and pull out the articles and the patterns that you really like. Make sure you include the pattern pieces, because you don't want to have like the picture of the pattern and then not that insert pattern pack that comes with the magazines. If you want to get rid of some, pull them out and absolutely get rid of them. Put them into either the recycling bin if you choose to do so, or even donate them, but make sure you get them out of your house and to where they belong. You can even mail them to a friend like we did the patterns last week. Now, I do want to mention some of these older magazines are selling on eBay and on Etsy and all that, so you could consider selling them. Some are going for a lot of money, which surprises me. So, definitely look them up before you actually put them in the recycling bin. It might be a good idea just to take a peek at that first. So when you determine your keep pile, and if you're like me, it's the entire pile, you're going to now organize them, and you're going to go through and figure out an order to how you want to organize them. I personally love these magazine racks. Now, I used to put them, by publisher, by magazine title, all of that stuff, but that's not really my lifestyle. I tend to just grab a stack of magazines and go somewhere to read them. So what I like to do is just put them into these magazine racks without a real order to them. Because I know I'm not going to maintain that order. So to me, it's not worth my time and effort to organize them by name or title or anything like that. For you, it might be. If it's going to make it so you can get your hands on a particular magazine, hey, have at it, go for it. There's different ways to organize them. You can stack them, you can put them on bookshelves, you can put them in bins. I've even seen people put them in filing cabinets, which is also a really great idea. Whatever it is, choose a system that makes sense to you and that works for your lifestyle. Next, plan for future magazines. So I think I mentioned this earlier. I have subscribed to a few of my favorites, and this is gonna make it so I don't impulse, I hope, buy magazines when I'm in the checkout counter. You're at Joann's and you see the whole stack of them and you just grab one because you think you're gonna love it. I tend to do that a lot. So I really just picked a couple that I absolutely love and I know I love, and I am subscribing to them. That way I won't be tempted, and it's a lot cheaper too. And finally, your fun task, pull the oldest magazine you have out and just look at some of those great advertisements, and maybe even Google some of the designers of the quilts in these magazines. It's a lot of fun to see where they're at now and to kind of just take that trip down memory lane, especially if you've been quilting a long time like I have. Thank you so much for joining me today for this episode. I so enjoy going through this topic with you. Life here is going to get a little bit hectic. So let's see, this airs on Monday. I am recording it on May 13th. And that's a Thursday. And tomorrow morning, we're getting a puppy. So life is going to be a little crazy here at the O'Neills, I'm afraid. But by Monday, by the time you see this, I'm already going to be in the trenches of puppyhood. So I can't wait to introduce her to you and see how that all plays out with our whole craziness of our lifestyle right now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Make sure you make some time to quilt, and please consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't done so. Have a great week, and I'll see you soon. Bye.